You're chasing the wrong teachers. You, yes, you, the one chasing the dream, the fame, the applause. You scroll through highlight reels, chase success stories, and call them lessons. But hear me now, you're chasing the wrong teachers. Everyone wants to learn from the successful. The man with the mansion, the woman with the company, the face on the magazine cover. But few ever sit beside the fallen. And that's where the real education hides. The successful will tell you how to shine. The failed will tell you how not to burn. You look at a man who's fallen and think, he's got nothing to teach me. But what you don't see is that he's been where you're going. He's walked that road barefoot through broken glass and shattered pride. And while success might show you the view from the top, failure will show you every cliff you shouldn't step on. Listen carefully. You can't shortcut experience, but you can borrow it. And the cheapest way to borrow experience is to learn from those who paid for it in pain. You see, failure is a brutal teacher, but it leaves behind the best graduates, the ones who learn not from applause but from silence, not from trophies but from tears. There are people out there who've built empires, lost them, rebuilt them again. People who know what it's like to taste defeat so bitter, it branded humility into their bones. Sit beside them. Ask them questions. You'll learn more in an hour with a broken man than in a year with a boastful one. Because the truth is, some people succeed by chance. Luck, timing, inheritance, coincidence. They hit the right wave at the right time, and now they preach as if they built the ocean. Don't be fooled. The ones who failed, they've seen the waves crush them. They've swallowed the salt water of regret, and they know which storms to avoid. You think success means wisdom? Not always. Some men stand tall because they never face the wind. Their castles are built on sand, and one storm, just one, will show you how fragile their crown really was. But the ones who fell, they built their walls from stone and scars. They've got no illusions left, only lessons. And they'll share them freely if only you have the humility to ask. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before creating the light bulb. Each failure, a teacher. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination by the editor who fired him. That same man's failure became the foundation of a global empire. Colonel Sanders rejected over 1,000 times before someone said yes to his chicken recipe. He didn't just sell food, he sold proof that failure is not final. And behind every great success, there's often a mentor who once fell. Steve Jobs was mentored by a man named Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, who watched his own company crumble. Jobs learned more from Bushnell's mistakes than from his own victories. Oprah Winfrey was once told she wasn't fit for television. Her mentor, Maya Angelou, had known failure, rejection, and silence. And yet her pain carved wisdom that raised generations. Even Michael Jordan, cut from his high school team, was taught by Dean Smith, a coach who had lost more championships than he won. That same loser taught the GOAT how to think like a champion. So youngster, don't run from the broken ones. Run to them. You'll see in their eyes something success can't fake, humility. You'll hear in their voice something victory can't teach, truth. You'll feel in their presence something fame can't buy, wisdom earned in darkness, because failure humbles the heart, and a humbled heart teaches better than a proud mind. When you talk to a successful man, he'll show you how high to climb. When you talk to a failed man, he'll show you where not to fall. And sometimes that's the difference between making it and breaking it. So sit beside the fallen, buy them coffee, ask questions, listen, truly listen, not to the sound of their loss, but to the rhythm of their recovery. Behind every failed person, there's a story the world forgot to ask about. And if you're smart, you'll ask. Because one of those stories might hold the key to skipping your own heartbreak. They say failure is contagious. No, ignorance is. Failure, when studied, is the cure. If you surround yourself only with people who've won, you'll inherit their arrogance. If you surround yourself with those who've lost and learned, you'll inherit their wisdom. You can learn victory from a winner, but you can learn life from a loser who refused to stay down. So to every young blood chasing dreams, don't just chase those who made it, chase those who barely did, the ones who almost gave up, the ones who failed, broke, rebuilt. Because from their scars, you'll learn what books can't teach. From their pain, you'll steal years of mistakes. And from their resilience, you'll learn the truest secret of success. It's not about never falling. It's about rising with a mind wiser than before. So go, sit beside the fallen. Their pain is your shortcut. Their story is your warning. Their failure is your foundation. Because one day you'll stand on your mountain and you'll know exactly which cliffs to avoid. Because someone who once fell showed you the way. You know what fills the world more than billionaires, geniuses, or world changers? Almosts. People who almost made it, almost broke through, almost lived the life they dreamed of. They fill quiet offices, worn-out factories, and coffee shops where they tell stories that start with, "I was this close." You can feel it in their voice, the ghost of a dream that never crossed the finish line. And do you know what buried most of them? Ignorance of failure. They studied success like it was scripture, but they never studied collapse. They chased only those who smiled in photographs, not those who bled behind closed doors. They became victims of a lie, that success is a straight line, that winners never lose, that falling means you're not built for greatness. But the graveyard of almost is filled with people who never learned what failure could have taught them. They ignored the wounded generals who knew the terrain of loss. They thought, what can I learn from someone who failed? And that question was the nail in their own coffin. Let me tell you something raw. Every overnight success you admire is standing on a pile of hidden mistakes. Some built the bridge themselves. Some just got lucky and walked across someone else's. But those who've truly earned it, they've drowned, choked, fallen, and somehow found the air again. That's the man you should be sitting with. That's the woman whose coffee you should buy, because their words are written in scar tissue, not ink. You see, failure gives you something success can't: clarity. When you fail, you see who's real. You see who claps when the music stops. You see who stays when there's no spotlight. When you fail, you see what parts of you were made of glass and which were made of steel. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You start becoming. But most youngsters don't want that process. They want shortcuts, cheat codes, life hacks. They want to skip the bruises and still wear the crown. And that's why they end up as residents of the graveyard of almost. Dreamers buried alive by comfort and pride. There's a reason failure speaks softly. It's because truth doesn't shout. It whispers. And only the humble hear it. If you're too proud to learn from the fallen, life will humble you until you do. Look at the greats. Michael Jordan listened to his losses more than his wins. Einstein said, "Failure is success in progress." Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before he led a nation. Even Nelson Mandela learned leadership through 27 years of loss. But here's what they all had in common. They surrounded themselves with wisdom, not just applause. And most of that wisdom came from people who have been burned before. Think about it. Elon Musk, once bankrupted after PayPal, slept on factory floors while his rockets exploded. He learned more from those explosions than from any investor's praise. Henry Ford, his first two car companies failed miserably. He studied those wrecks, and those wrecks taught him how to build the third one, Ford Motor Company. Jack Ma, rejected by 30 jobs, including KFC. He said every no became a blueprint for the yes that finally built Alibaba. These people didn't just study success, they studied ruin. And ruin is the most honest textbook you'll ever read. But here's the warning, kid. For every one of them, there are thousands who never learned from failure. They repeated the same mistakes, called it bad luck, and faded into the fog because they refused to listen to the failed ones who tried to warn them. There's wisdom rotting in forgotten men. There are blueprints buried in the ashes of people who once dreamed like you. You ignore them because they don't look like winners, but inside their stories are the passwords to every locked door you'll face. Sit with a failed entrepreneur. He'll tell you where greed hides. Sit with a divorced father. He'll tell you what pride costs. Sit with an addict in recovery. He'll teach you more about discipline than a motivational speaker ever will. Failure strips away the luxury of pretending. It leaves only truth, raw, painful, necessary. So if you really want to win, study not the gold, but the ashes. Study not the winner's smiles, but the nights they almost quit. Because one day, when you're standing at the edge of your own almost, you'll need more than motivation. You'll need memory. And if you've walked with failures, you'll remember the way out. The world worships the spotlight, but wisdom lives backstage, in the shadows where the broken ones sit, quietly holding answers. Go find them. Not on Instagram, not in viral videos, but in the corners, the offices, the small homes of those who've seen dreams crumble and kept breathing anyway. Their stories won't make headlines, but they'll save you years of mistakes. You want to escape the graveyard of almost? Then learn from the ghosts. Learn from the ones who've been buried, dug themselves out, and came back with maps of the minefield. Because every failure you meet is a walking library of survival. But you'll never borrow a book you're too proud to touch. So go. Before you chase another success story, find a failure story and read it twice. Because the difference between almost and accomplished is often one conversation with someone who once fell and refused to stay down. You can run from people. You can run from pain. But you can't outrun the mirror. And the mirror I'm talking about isn't the one hanging on your wall. It's the one life builds out of your mistakes. It doesn't show your face. It shows your truth. Failure is that mirror. It's not your enemy. It's your reflection, stripped of filters and excuses. When you fail, life stops pretending. It takes off your mask, rips off the image you show the world, and says, this is who you are right now. Not who you post to be, not who you dream to be, who you actually are. Most people can't handle that. They shatter the mirror instead of facing it. They blame others, the system, luck, time. They'd rather live blind than see the truth that failure reveals. But if you can stand there, eyes open, and look into that reflection, that's the day you begin to grow. Because failure doesn't destroy you. It introduces you to yourself. You think success teaches self-awareness? It doesn't. Success hides your flaws under applause. It blinds you with spotlights. It makes you believe your own headlines. But failure whispers in the dark. It asks, who are you when the crowd leaves? Who are you when no one's clapping? Who are you when it all falls apart? And if you listen, that whisper becomes the foundation of your strength. Every successful person who lasted, not the lucky ones, but the real ones, went through that mirror. They faced the ugliness within and came out honest. Nelson Mandela faced his mirror in a prison cell. 27 years of silence, where ego dies and purpose is born. Steve Jobs faced his mirror when he was fired from his own company. He said later, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me," because in that mirror he found his humility again. Malala Yousafzai faced her mirror after a bullet and chose courage over fear. She could have stayed silent. Instead, she became a global voice for education. Failure didn't define her. It refined her. But here's the painful truth. Most of you are afraid to look in that mirror. You'd rather pretend everything's fine. You'd rather copy someone's success formula than confront your own weakness. You admire confidence, but you run from confrontation, especially the one inside you. You can't fix what you refuse to face, and you can't grow from a reflection you avoid. That's why the failed ones, the broken ones, the quiet survivors, they carry a different energy. They've already met their mirror. They've already wrestled with their demons and came out bleeding, but awake. They don't speak to impress. They speak to express. And every sentence they drop carries the weight of honesty. That's the mentor you should look for. Not the perfect one, but the transparent one. Let me tell you something harsh but real. Most people want motivation, not transformation. They want to feel better, not be better. They want to hear success stories, not failure confessions. Because failure feels too close to home, too real, too naked. But that's the medicine. That's the mirror that heals. When you talk to someone who's failed, you're not talking to a loser. You're talking to a survivor. Someone who's looked into their own darkness and learned how to walk out of it. That's knowledge no textbook, no influencer, no billionaire speech can ever give you. You see, success teaches pride. Failure teaches perspective. Pride says, I did it right. Perspective says, here's where I went wrong. Don't repeat my pain. And if you're wise, you'll learn to value perspective more than praise. Because praise makes you feel good, but perspective makes you grow. So when life breaks you, and it will, don't curse the mirror. Stand there and study it. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? What part of me needs to die so a better version can live? Because every failure carries a seed of reinvention, but only those who look honestly will plant it. You want to rise? Then stop chasing the ones who only show their shine. Walk with the ones who've walked through fire and came out scarred but steady. Their mirrors are cracked, but through those cracks, light comes in. Because when you stare long enough into the mirror of failure, you stop seeing defeat and start seeing direction. You don't learn who you are by winning. You learn who you are when losing refuses to let you hide. Look closer. The reflection isn't your end. It's your beginning. You ever notice how the most interesting faces in this world aren't flawless? They've got lines, marks, stories carved right into their skin. That's what life does to you when you live it for real. It signs you. And those scars, they're not decoration. They're documentation. Proof that you showed up, that you fought, that you paid your dues in flesh and fear. You can fake a smile, fake success, fake confidence, but you can't fake a scar. A scar says, I've been there. It says, I bled, I healed, I learned. It says, I'm still standing. You want to know what separates the wise from the naive? Not money, not luck, not trophies. It's scars. Because every scar carries a lesson written in pain. A failed business leaves a scar of humility. A broken friendship leaves a scar of boundaries. A betrayal leaves a scar of awareness. And when you meet someone covered in those marks, you're looking at a walking library of real-world knowledge. That's why you need to walk close to people who failed. They're fluent in the language of scars. They can translate pain into prevention. You see, success hides the wound. Failure exposes it, then forces you to stitch it yourself. And once you've done that, you never forget how. Ask anyone who's built something twice. Ask J.K. Rowling, rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter. Ask Steven Spielberg, denied by film school 3 times. Imagine this. One day someone will ask you how you survived the dark, how you rose while others fell, how you succeeded when luck was scarce, and you won't tell them about your victories. You will tell them about your failures, about the nights you lay in dust, about the wolves you tamed, about the fire that tried to melt you but didn't. And when you speak, they will listen, because scars speak louder than applause. You have learned what most never will, that the fallen are the best teachers, that the fire doesn't destroy, it refines, that the dust is full of secrets, that failure is the heaviest teacher, but the wisest, that wolves live inside you and only one can be fed. All of it builds your crown. So, go. Sit beside the fallen. Learn from the fire. Honor the scars. Feed the wolf that refuses to quit. Listen to the dust, because every moment of pain, every misstep, every dark night is preparing you for the crown you were meant to wear. And when you rise, you will not just succeed, you will teach, you will inspire, you will become the mentor the next generation needs. Not by luck, not by accident, but by fire, by scars, by failure, by wisdom. This is your crown. Wear it, own it, and never forget. The world bows to those who have risen from the fallen. It isn't applause, it is scars. It is fire endured, wolves tamed, dust listened to, and mirrors stared into. The crown is forged in everything the world tells you will break you, and yet you rise anyway. You see, the world adores the lucky. It cheers for the overnight successes. It bows to the fortunate, the charismatic, the celebrated. But the crown of scars, it is invisible to the untrained eye. It sits quietly on the heads of those who've learned the language of failure. It commands respect without speaking. It whispers wisdom without fanfare. Think about the people you admire most. Steve Jobs, fired from the company he created, humiliated, cast aside. Then he came back, tempered by exile, sharper than ever. Oprah Winfrey, told she wasn't fit for television, rejected, silenced, Yet she built an empire from the ashes of denial. Colonel Sanders, rejected thousands of times, laughed at, ignored, and finally rose to global recognition after decades of persistence. Each of them wears the crown of scars. They are unshakable because they have faced the fire the rest of the world refuses to enter. And here's the secret the young never hear. You don't need to avoid failure. You need to collect it, learn from it, sit beside it, study it, respect it. Every bruise, every loss, every heartache, they are not stains. They are signatures. Proof that you dared, that you tried, that you refused to be ordinary. Your mentors are not just the people who've succeeded. They are the ones who've fallen hardest, who've been humiliated, broken, and rejected, and still found the strength to rise again. Those are the ones who will teach you to walk through storms without losing your feet. You want to skip mistakes? Sit with the failed. Learn from their fire. Drink from their scars. Let their dust guide your steps, because every shortcut they give you is worth more than a decade of wandering blind. The crown of scars is heavier than any trophy. It sits uncomfortably at first. It aches. It presses on your chest. But that weight is the only thing that will keep you upright when the winds of fortune and misfortune collide. Imagine this. One day someone will ask you how you survived the dark, how you rose while others fell, how you succeeded when luck was scarce. And you won't tell them about your victories. You will tell them about your failures, about the nights you lay in dust, about the wolves you tamed, about the fire that tried to melt you but didn't. And when you speak, they will listen, because scars speak louder than applause. You have learned what most never will, that the fallen are the best teachers, that the fire doesn't destroy, it refines, that the dust is full of secrets, that failure is the heaviest teacher, but the wisest, that wolves live inside you, and only one can be fed. All of it builds your crown. So go, sit beside the fallen, learn from the fire, honor the scars, feed the wolf that refuses to quit, listen to the dust, because every moment of pain, every misstep, every dark night is preparing you for the crown you were meant to wear. And when you rise, you will not just succeed, you will teach, you will inspire, you will become the mentor the next generation needs, not by luck, not by accident, but by fire, by scars, by failure, by wisdom. This is your crown. Wear it, own it, and never forget. The world bows to those who have risen from the fallen.